Uh, so this is devlog number 3 for the game Sins of the Guardian. So for this week, I'll actually be talking about the mask for Wrath. But before I do that, I just want to update you that the week before this, we did do a massive overhaul to the game. So we completely took out the combat system in the game. So it's just about avoiding enemies now, using your wits and abilities to maneuver through enemies and solving puzzles, etc. That made some masks redundant, which we have taken out, such as envy, greed, and gluttony. This was also partly due to it being a vertical slice, so not everything that we stated was going to be implemented into the game. So before I start, I just want to talk about the sin of Wrath. So obviously Wrath is a representation of destruction, violence, and power. So we wanted to design the mechanic around the idea of power, destruction, which eventually led to us making the force push ability in the game, which we thought would be a fitting theme to the Sin of Wrath. My main inspiration for this game was The Witcher 3 and movies like Star Wars, since obviously Star Wars has the Force in it. Witcher 3 had the ability of Ard, where if you activate the ability, it will push all objects, including enemies, away from Geralt. So I structured the ability to this. Now if we jump into the game, as you can see, I am controlling the character, and my character has a little box which is the emitter where the force push will come from, and we have Wrath selected. So if I activate the Wrath mask, it will actually produce a force, or produce a sphere that will create a force type effect and push everything around it. So I can reactivate it, and these objects should get pushed away, which it did. Its secondary ability is being able to pinpoint where the force push is going to be activated. So if you hold down the aim button, as you can see is on the right, it's now aiming, and you activate the ability, you can pinpoint what to push. So I want to push this green object in front of me, so if I press Q, it will go flying, and I can do it here, and I can do it on this one without any of the two being affected. Now this is important because some parts of the game you would need to rearrange blocks around the character using the force push, and we thought this was important because in the book of games design, it talked about game mechanics supporting puzzles, and so I went with that mentality of creating the mechanic to support the puzzles which the members of my team had made. So for the last mechanic of the force push, this is very similar to the first one that we saw, where it pushes the cubes away, except this time it's a fog clearing mechanic. So if I press Q, it'll actually push everything around it. This will let the player proceed forward into the map that's covered in fog, and since fog does damage you, you don't want to be going in there. And you can use Wrath to clear the fog and proceed. Now if we look at the code, it's actually just a simple instantiate object script. So I would get the prefab of the ball that I want to emit, and that emits the object, and the object also has a script where it applies a force going forward. It also checks every time which direction the character model is facing, and that'll update its new forward position. So that's for the AoE effect. For the pinpoint one, I made a raycast script where it would check if there's an object in front of it, and as long as it's not an enemy, you can activate it while aiming, and it would apply a force to the direction you're looking at by what we have here is 5,000. Finally, the way I did the force push was I just had a sphere with with a collider, so it would collide with everything except the player. And the way I did that was putting it on a different layer than the player and removing its colliders for those two layers. I also had a force field particle system. Sorry. So that it would push all of the particles around it away. Since I set the rotation speed to -1, it'll repel whatever it contacts with. So that's it for this week's devlog. So next week I'll be focusing on the Lust Mask for the game, which is a manipulation type ability.